Hey everyone, and welcome to the Decks of the Week, the weekly series where I showcase the top 10 best decks in Marvel Snap. If you'd like to support the content, hitting the like button is the best thing that you can do. With that being said, I get a lot of questions about how this list is generated, so every once in a while I like to do a little quick recap. Right off the top, we do use untapped base statistics. We filter by 6,000 collection level and above. We also filter by the top 50% infinite to get rid of all those Agatha farming gamers. What we also do is we rank the list based on win rate with a secondary characteristic of cube rate. Now this is important. If we have two decks with a 59% win rate, the higher ranked one will be the one with the higher cube rate. In Marvel Snap, it's important to note though that some decks may be more effective at lower win rates with higher cube rates, so you shouldn't be taking the top 10 list as like a legitimate just 1 through 10 in ranked order, because there might be a deck say at 6 with a high cube rate that fits your collection and your playstyle perfectly that you will be able to pilot with more effectiveness than a number 1 or 2 deck. So please watch each of the individual decks, make a determination based on your collection level, your your comfort with the particular archetypes to determine which decks are best for you. I just want to give a quick overview on how this list is generated because I try to be as kind of data centric as possible. We got a new brew of Silver Surfer, and I'm actually really excited to showcase it here. Silver Surfer making a comeback. I love this. Anytime you have Nova Killmonger in a Silver Surfer deck, I get excited. It's my favorite variant of Silver Surfer. Of course, if you have that, you're going to have the Sebastian Shaw. But what's interesting here is we don't have the Nakia and the Okoye, which is very common in these Sebastian Shaw based shells. Instead, we're using Nocturne, we're using Gladiator because Hela's play rate is kind of decreasing, although, I think it's still really good. So Gladiator gets to see some play, but most notably you have the Forge, the Brood, the Absorbing Man, and then the Mockingbird to take advantage of the Brood Absorbing Man combination, which allows you to slam some serious points down. It's very notable, I'm not sure if you've noticed or not, there's no Sarah here. And so without Sarah, it's a very different playstyle. You're going to lean more on something like a Hope Summers to generate those unfair advantages. For instance, on turn 6, being able to play something like a Silver Surfer and an Absorbing Man together, because that's 7 energies required to do the combination, so you'll have to play at least one card on Hope Summers. But regardless, a very interesting deck of 54% win rate, but a strong cube rate at 43. I will say this current deck only had about 350 games of a sample size, a little lower than I like to include, but at number 10, I think it's fair to consider. At number 9, we're going to Bounce. Now, this is one that I expected to be higher, to be honest with you. It's also notable that while we'll be talking about Sasquatch soon, Sasquatch actually brings this deck lower in win rate, which is not what I expected. A Hitmonkey based Mysterio deck is a perfect place for something like Sasquatch, but statistically right now anyways, Sasquatch brings it down ever so slightly. Maybe it's the play pattern, maybe it's the familiarity with the card that needs to be improved before Sasquatch can be a better fit into a deck like this, but as of right now, this is the best version of Bounce we're seeing at a 55% win rate and a pretty strong cube rate at 30. It's worth noting here that Sasquatch is usually being put into play in the replacement of Hitmonkey, because Hitmonkey and Sage kind of feel like they're doing the same thing, although Sage tends to be a higher impact play for the most part. Sage has been an absolute all-star of this archetype, and so if you're looking to play some Bounce, this is currently the one that's getting the best results. As we go to number 8, we have a secondary kind of variation of a Lockdown. This is pretty inventive. Once again, this deck is kind of brand new. It has about 350 games of sample size, so the statistics might be a little less reliable than we like to include under most circumstances. But at a 0.37 cube rate and a 56% win rate, you can't deny that this Loki Lockdown shell is actually pretty fascinating. You got some of the heavy hitters of Lockdown with White Widow, of course, Cannonball, Professor X, and then you have the Loki package with Quinjet, Loki, Agent Coulson, and etc. I think this is pretty inventive. You have two kind of avenues you can take. You can do the Lockdown Cannonball finish. You can also do the Loki finish if you're in an advantageous position, I should say. So long story short, I do think that this deck is really cool. I do think it's neat. A pretty interesting mashup of two different archetypes that's performing pretty well, albeit at a pretty low sample size for this given week. As we move to number 7, now this is one that's been performing very well, and I've been seeing it on the ladder quite a bit. It's gaining in popularity, and this is going to be Nomura Scar. Now, Nomura, 56% win rate, a 0.50 cube rate, one of the highest cube rates I've seen in a while, one of the highest in this particular video. This deck's putting up points. The cube rate does not surprise me because Quake is an immense cube winning card. The ability to flip locations and take your opponents by surprise is huge, especially when you consider this particular deck. If you're playing Scar on turn 6, he's probably a 4-costed Scar, which allows you to sneak that Quake in as a surprise play. So you're playing Scar and Quake on turn 6. In my experience, it's been crazy what you can do. And obviously you have Typhoid Mary, you have Crossbones, you have all these activators for Scar. Not to mention, Nomura will send Captain Marvel to 10 power. It'll send Nocturne to 10 power, Enchantress to 10 power, Lizard to 10 power. So you're gonna have these multiple 10 power kind of entities on the board, which allows Scar to get discounted to let you fit in that Quake play, okay? So I think this deck is really innovative, and if you're looking for any deck to play this week right now and you want to try something out, this is the one. I think it's pretty damn awesome, and Nomura is going to be a obviously core component of this list. Without Nomura, the deck doesn't work, unfortunately, because it really relies on getting things to 10 power, which is exactly what Nomura does at number 7. Number 6, we have Ultron here. Now, this is one of the lower cube rate kind of decks in the list, but the win rate at 57% is still impressive. I think what we're seeing here is the fact that people are becoming a little more familiar with the playstyle of Ultron. They see you play Dazzler, they just know what's up, right? So the surprise factor is now gone. The Ultron itself, though, is damn good. Those drones at 2 power is legitimate, but it's just not enough to steal cubes from people because you're not catching them by surprise. So your snapping is going to be very important with a deck like this because you're going to want to take those 2 and 4 cube games whenever possible in order to kind of beef up that cube rate. But overall, at a 57% win rate, Ultron still a pretty legitimate part of the meta coming in at number 6. At number 5, we've got Black Knight Hela. Now, Hela's making a serious comeback because Leech has seen a decrease in play rate. But I don't think Leech is dead. We're actually be talking about Leech a little later on because Leech is actually legitimately part of the meta here. I think it's going to surprise people that Leech is as good as he is. And you're going to need Leech to counter this deck. At a 57% win rate and a 0.42 cube rate, this is a very strong list. I mean, it's just generating a ton of momentum with Black Knight helps a lot, obviously, but you have Blink, you have Jubilee. It's just a great deck. I like the inclusion of Scar here because you're able to often get out that Hela early with Blink, even if it's accidental, and then you have all these larger cards on the field of play, and Scar becomes a very inexpensive play on turn 6. So I do think this deck is phenomenal, really, really cool. And of course, Black Knight is a really welcome addition to this list because with Blade and obviously your Lady Sif, you have these really reliable discards, so you're able to make good use of that Ebony Blade. So coming in at number 5 is Black Hela. Coming in at number 4, now it's Destroy. It's Destroy. Destroy is actually making quite a bit of a comeback here because we're seeing so much damn lockdown, and people are starting to realize, like, hey, I can actually kind of get rid of this lockdown stuff, these debris and the Widow's Kisses. I can carnage them. I can, I can just get rid of them. I can venom them or whatever. And next thing you know it, you got yourself a pretty functional Destroy deck. Now, in the current meta, I find that like Null feels slightly cuttable. Like I was playing this deck to kind of like just get a feel for it. I'm like, man, with all the junk, like you're destroying rocks and you're destroying, Widow's Kisses, as I mentioned, Null doesn't feel as like it's ramping as it used to be because you're countering all these small junk pieces, goblins and stuff like that. But Death is an amazing card, so if anything, I could see Null being cut from this deck eventually, but right now, this statistically is the best version of Destroy, because if you're doing your thing, and you're destroying Deadpool, and you're just getting that ball rolling, then despite destroying low-value targets on the other side, like the debris rocks and stuff, you're still generating a ton of power for that Null eventually, and of course, you can sneak it out with the X23. So, Destroy making a massive comeback at a 58% win rate over the past week, a huge meta share, and a 0.30 cube rate. So Destroy is back in full force at number 4. Number 3, it's our first appearance of Sasquatch here, and it's not in a deck that you'd expect. First of all, you might notice right off the top, is that actually Morph? Is Morph really in this deck? Yes, it is. It is in the deck, and I think it's pretty damn fun. In my experience playing this deck, it was phenomenally well balanced, and I mean, there's some changes you can make. Like if you're like, okay, Alex, I don't want to play Morph, right? You could switch out Morph for something else if you'd wish, but honestly, the deck works so well. I think it marries a lot of of the fun mechanics of Mockingbird and Sasquatch with the general power of the Annihilus Sentry package. I mean, Annihilus Sentry Hood, they've continued to be remarkably powerful cards, and when you consider the White Widows are pretty much being played anywhere as the best in slot 2, you often can just leave that Widow's Kiss there, and with Annihilus just kick it back, which is pretty damn neat, right? Without even have to worry about the location. So at the end of the day, I really do like this list a lot. Very inventive, and the statistics speak for themselves. A 58% win rate and a 0.31 cube rate. It's pretty damn good. Going into number 2 here, we got the new version of Lockdown. Now, essentially, this new version of Lockdown, the reason why I want to include it, it's performing exceptionally well at a 0.49 cube rate. Amazing cube rate, 58% win rate, but most importantly, in this week, if you pull Sasquatch and you pull Havoc and you've been looking for a deck to take advantage of these cards, look no further. We've got, and of course we got the Ravona Rank Slayer as well, which is going to be beneficial to the Angelas, the Havoc, you have the Goblins, the Wolfsbanes, and of course the Professor X's. So there's a lot to like about this deck here, and it's a really new spicy take on the Lockdown. Now I know you're thinking, Alex, I hate Lockdown, I'm so sick of Lockdown. Lockdown means I can't play my damn cards. Well, at least we got a pretty fancy ass brew here, okay? We got a Havoc brew. This is pretty cool, so at least we can respect this one, and it's gonna make waves. Havoc's tricky to play. It's gonna take practice. This is one of those decks that if you're kind of just starting to get a hang of it, you're gonna have to like dismiss the first 20 games of like losses and stuff to really get this moving. But honestly, it's a pretty cool deck, and I like it a lot. As we move on to our number 1 deck, which is a good time to mention that we're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. If you're not subscribed yet, which over half of you are not, could I just ask that you consider hitting that subscribe button just so you can remain up to date with my content in the future as we move on to our goal at 100,000 subscribers. We just might make it in 2024 with your help. It's been one of my goals of my entire career. So I'm excited because I feel like we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And I'd love if you were a part of it. As we talk about Blink Tech number 1 deck, 0.39 cube rate and a 59% win rate. So we have a couple decks with higher cube rates, but this is the highest win rate deck, and it's just good. It's just a damn good deck. And what's interesting about it, you're playing good stuff on early turns. You have fantastic closers in the Red Hulk and the Magneto, and it's Leech. It's still Leech, and I think you're still stealing cubes away because I think Hell is starting to become a little more popular because, well, Leech was destroyed. And so if you're playing Leech, you're catching people by surprise. That has a power buff now. And of course, you're still in a position where you can Jubilee, Blink, Leech comes out, right? So now Leech is a target of the Jubilee Blink combination, which is pretty fascinating because that allows you to follow up with the Red Hulk on turn 6 or the Magneto on turn 6, right? So it's very, very notable here that Leech still has a role to play, especially with this additional power it has. I know it's not a lot of additional power, but it is additional power, so it feels less bad coming out of the Jubilee with that Blink play. Because remember, Blink is sticking the landing, and everything else is just gravy, so that extra on reveal can give you a lot of, we'll say it'll be a release valve for all those Silver Surfer decks that are crashing into the meta now. No, it's mainly for Hella still, okay? And of course, the bounce decks, which are really good right now, I will add. Siege is going absolutely crazy, way better than I expected. So Leech is the release valve for those types of decks. Thank you guys so much for watching. I sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. There's another video somewhere on the screen. I think it's right there. So check it out if you're interested in seeing some more Marvel Snap content. And we'll see you on that next Marvel Snap video.